white women who will tell you, who I've cussed out, that I don't have the disease.
Whether you realize it or not,
I don't have the
that
disease.
is what you did in that conversation by saying, well, you could have made this a teachable
No.
moment. There's a piece of that, and I'm just
Yeah.
asking you to step back a little bit
Yeah.
to look at it from the outside, because the fact that you reached out to a sister regarding a post that she made that clearly stated who this was designed for, because we have so few spaces anyway. So if I create a space and you just yet again want to be that one and jump in and I say no, opposed to being like, you know what, sis, I agree with you, you had to have a conversation about, well, could have been a teachable moment, maybe we could have done it a different way. There's a different conversation in there that I'm going to ask for you to step back later to think about. Why was there even the initial desire to reach out?
I can tell you why.
I would
I
say
can tell you why.
historical trauma.
Exactly.
That's why. Because when we start, the things that we internalize,
But we love you.
and how that shows up, okay, Dr. Joy DeGruy would say post-traumatic slave syndrome, and some of that has to do with, it's not a conscious thing. It is the intersectionality that I live with every day, where I have to consciously sometimes talk about not being me. Okay, that if you want to call it the double consciousness. Okay, it could be as subtle as I'm at work and I'm ready to speak up because something didn't go right, but consciously I know that my speaking up, because I'm a black woman, is going to be perceived in a certain, not assertive, aggressive type of way.
Always.
So, I live with that, and sometimes do things not even realizing because of that trauma of consistently having to live in that double consciousness. And so I'm not being a black man, I'm gonna say that I think that a lot of it many times is that, because that black man, that I can't think of some of the derogatory terms now from slavery, but having to do with, they're just these over sexualized brutes, and you know, that pain and living with that consistently, because it's still here. It's not like it went away because it's no longer slavery. Folks are still clutching their pocketbooks and still saying, I'm gonna call the police and say that you attacked me, and all of that is still very real. So I can imagine walking around in that body, that's sometimes just not wanting to be the bigger Thomas. Okay, not wanting to be that knee-jerk reaction is, oh, I didn't want all this to happen, or I wasn't, because I know you see me as a brute anyway, subconsciously I'm saying. I didn't want all this to happen. And again, more conversations. Again, therapists who look like us, who talk about decolonizing therapy and such, because they're walking our walk. They understand what this trauma is about and how we're still coping with it. I think that's what it's going to take to see less of that, because it's hard. The emotional labor is real. I mean, I'm tired sometimes of being all my stuff. Black, woman, lesbian, I mean, it's just, it's a lot, you know, it really is.
You just want to stay home and just like, I just want to be me.
Yeah.
And just be, I don't have to go out and interact with nobody. All I am is me, and there's no labels, and you can just exist. And it's a shame that you can only do that like in your house, because when you walk out, all the layers pile up, and it's like, well, is this because I'm gay? Is this because I'm black? Is this because I'm read as a woman? Like, I don't know which trauma to address right now.
Right.
You just like, you get tired.
Yes.
You get so tired.
It's almost,
I agree.
it's almost,
No, you go.
I was gonna say what you're saying. It's almost like you have to walk out the door with a hand of cards and figure out which card they're gonna pull today. Are they gonna pull? Is this reason? So when they pull this card today because they've done something, is it gonna be because I'm black? Are they gonna pull this card because I'm young? Are they gonna pull this card because I'm gay? Are they gonna pull this card because even though I'm educated, I went to an HBCU? Like it's a whole bunch of different things where it's like, so why do I always have to walk out with this hand of cards instead of just being and existing? And I find myself at work sometimes, and when you were saying that, I had to sit back and say, okay, I know I say I'm apologetically black, but I apologize too much for things that I shouldn't be apologizing for. When I'm at work, I should not have to apologize for having my hair the way that I want to have my hair. I shouldn't have to apologize for because I spoke up about something in the meeting that I didn't understand. I should not have to apologize for the fact that you sent us an email about the situation with George Floyd instead of really reaching out to us to figure out if we're okay. And I got upset about something, and then I found myself saying, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything, but then I said, no, I should. Then I told my manager because the CEO of our company sent out an email saying he read the letters from Dr. King when he was in jail. What does that have to do with what's going on right now? And how does that show any? Yeah, and it made him feel good, I guess, but it didn't sit well with me because I'm like, how do you feel like you're helping us make progress? And some of my other black coworkers felt like that was him acknowledging or recognizing us, and I'm like, no. And then I get angry, and it's like, well, that at least he did. No, that's not at least he did. Like, and sometimes I find myself apologizing, like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have said this. But then if we don't start saying things, if we don't start being unapologetic for real, it's not just a hashtag. A lot of us wear the t-shirt, but we don't live the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And if I'm really not being as unapologetic as I say I am, are things going to change? And we do that with white women, whether it's gay, black, whatever. I do find myself sometimes doing that with white women. And sometimes it's a joke in the gay community, you know, with guys and, you know, white women and, you know, the whole aura that they bring of this prissy and this whatever. And I even find sometimes when it comes to the way we speak, you look at your Sex in the Cities and your things like that where it's white women, and sometimes people emulate that in the black gay community, and it's like we have queens in our own community that are strong, that have natural hair. We don't have to have blonde hair and this and that to and I know it's more of a joke, but when you say things like that, I really sit back and I think like, damn, we really do put a lot of respect unconsciously on white women.
And white women are killing us.
They are the main ones.
And they have always killed us. Because again, Emmett Till's murderer lived a long life, had children, had a full life because of a lie on a black child. Y'all gonna need to figure it out and stop protecting white women. I don't know what that takes to y'all.
I love you, but baby, I don't have the disease. Eternity. No, I do want to say this because I think this is very important. Like, I don't know if you read the post thread that the exchange that Eternity and I had. I never told her that she should not have addressed the women. What I was more concerned about was the trauma that she was expressing in her post. And I had a similar experience where someone said something that was racially insensitive to me, and I didn't cuss them out. I said to them, like, do you realize what you're saying and how you're saying and how it has impacted me? And now that person is one of my best friends. Now I know this person was somebody online. You didn't know them from Adam. I know that wouldn't have been the destination. But to your point about white people going out and educating their own peers, I said, well, I thought this is a moment for you to let her know, I don't know if you understand, but that's not cute. That's racially insensitive. And this is why. And if she got it, then that means she never does that again. And that means she can tell other people who have that same language. But where I was wrong was by challenging you to do that, or saying that it was your obligation to do that. Because the way I was kind of raised up as a leader, and this may be wrong, but the way I was raised up as a leader is we got to treat people how to teach us. We have to teach people rather how to treat us. And that goes for white folk as well. So I'm not going to tolerate you're on my post. I'm not going to tolerate you saying something racially insensitive on my post. And what I got from our exchange is where in that moment rather, because she could have caught me on another day, in that moment rather, based on, like if she had said something inflammatory like nigger or something like that, she was not just, but she was being racially insensitive. And I think she thinks she was being funny.
I'm sure she did.
That's what I got from that she wasn't trying to offend you, that she really thought she was being funny and clever and coy. And what she needed was a reality check that, baby, that's not funny. I don't think that's funny. And this is historically why those kind of things are funny. And if she got it, so be it. If she doesn't, block her and you move on.
So, but to that point, and the reason, like, I'm glad we had that exchange. So it's not even just about that specific post, but a big reason when I said like it was more hurtful for your response, and part of your response was, you see me as a leader, and leaders are supposed to conduct themselves a certain way.
Right.
But the thing is, there's so much pressure on Black people
Yes.
to teach white people how to teach us, and that's not our job, and that's not necessary all the time. Now, I agree with you in general, but she said the wrong thing on the wrong day. And I did not have the spoons, I did not have the capacity. In fact, I tagged one of y'all admins, so y'all could come get her.
That's right.
Because I didn't have it.
That's right.
I was saying, all I could do was not cuss her out.
Yes.
That was the most I could do. And I used to be of the same mindset of like, yeah, we should, we gotta teach people and educate. They know what the fuck they're doing. Yeah. They know. And even if in her mindset it was just something light and fluffy,
Sure.
that still doesn't erase the impact of her words.
Yes.
So, like, white people know how to treat animals. They know how to treat dogs and cats. The dogs and cats didn't have a lecture and say, this is how you treat us.
That's right.
So why do we have to come in with all these workshops and all these, okay, well, let me hold you. This is why you can't say nigger. Why? Like,
Right.
no.
Okay, let me do a devil's
I
advocate.
agree with you. So that's the teachable moment I had with you. Yes. I agree with you.
I was hurt, but we talked and I healed.
Yeah, and I value, and it all happened in public. And what I love was we were able to model in that discourse. This is what happens when two people have a disagreement, and they can come to some mutuality, and it's all love. And she's here now having this conversation, and we haven't missed the beat since then.
And that underlining thing, and this just says something in communities, because even though I did not like what you said to me, I still trusted your character, and I still respect you as a person. So it's not really part of the conversation, but just as a Black communities, Black queer folks, like a lot of times we respond to stuff in hurt, and I know like a less mature me could have been like, oh, you did that, I'm cutting you off, I can't, you're an awful person. It's like, no, that was a bad
Well, I thought you were. That's what I was like.
Huh?
I thought you were.
Going to cut him off.
I thought
So
you
did
were.
at any time in these comments, did the white woman ever come back and apologize?
I don't think she did.
No.
How about this?
I
How about this?
The umbrella of the fact that y'all had this conversation, which was great.
Yeah.
You needed to have this conversation, but the person who triggered,
That's right.
again, a white woman makes a comment that triggers a conversation between two Black people, and you move through that conversation, but the white woman who came in dropped the bomb of insensitivity because you walk in complete and total white privilege. So you felt completely comfortable making your joke and wanting to invade into Black space.
Yes.
You do that, this conversation happens in Black community, again, because a white woman, in her white privilege, in her insensitivity, came in, dropped a bomb under the guise of a joke, and then walks away. Probably walked away crying because my feelings hurt and I'm so sad, and now I got white tears.
She came on my page and was hitting love on stuff. I have a lot to ask. But
That was a
I get your
passive
point.
aggressive way of like, I still like you.
Okay,
Yeah, but I appreciate the conversation that he and I had though. Because like I said, for a lot of people, the relationship stops like that. And I'm not the kind of person to cut people off. I had that happen so many times. I'm just traumatized from that. So like, I'm glad that we were able to have a conversation. He grew a bit. I grew a bit. I don't know how, but I was just mad. But I'm sure I grew a bit somehow. So I think we can still take those moments between us. Because you're right. Because they will come in, drop a bomb metaphorically and figuratively. But it's up to us to still rebuild our relationships and our connection and not let that bullshit invade our space.
Monique, yes.
I want to speak to two things. The teachable moment, I'm with you. I feel that. I feel that stressor of I'm tired of teaching people, but I am an educator at my core. So I want to say this. Sometimes you can tell, like you said, it was supposed to be a joke. You can tell many times who's going to be receptive to the learning. Okay, so recently my partner and I went to a local restaurant that we love, and when we arrived, the person at the door who was a young white male who was, I could tell was probably young enough to be one of my children, said in a very friendly voice, "So girls, where are we sitting today? Where are we sitting today?" Okay, so I think I wasn't breathing before a few seconds because he called us girls. Okay. We're in the South. This is a white man saying to my partner, who happens to be older than I am, "So girls, where are we sitting today?" That's an English major. That whole "we" thing is another thing. We are not okay. But I ordered, my glass of water or whatever. I could barely drink because it was bothering me so much. I didn't address it initially. Something in that person's spirit and energy told me I could, and it bothered me so much that if they didn't receive it well and I could never go back there again, I was prepared for that also. He had no clue. And I'm saying this to say that there are people who are behaving in a racist way that because of their privilege, because of their many times youth also, it is not intentional. They're just walking through their privileged lives.
Walking in their whiteness.
Yeah, right. This was one of those people. So I had to speak to him about it, and I explained to him that another person, like the younger you, this would have went very differently. He was receptive. I'm glad I had that speak with him, and he thanked me, and it's been respectful from here on out, and I hope it's made a difference for any other black person that crosses his path, that he understands why that was so egregious.
You'll be able to tell a peer if they say something.
Right, like you're
egregious.
saying now.
Jazz, I think we neglected you.
I'm enjoying the conversation because
You wanna share anything?
everything you guys are saying is exactly what I preach on the daily basis to myself and to my peers. Because, like you said, I am one of the younger ones here, and I tell people all the time, like, our ancestors did it. My grandparents, they did their part, right? Her parents did their part. My mom, they did their part. Now we've got to do our part, and we got to educate, and we have to stop allowing people to make those mistakes. Like, it's not a mistake if I tell you that I prefer he pronouns, and then you see me the next time and you say, "Hey girl, what's up?" That's not appropriate. Right. It's not appropriate if at work I behave, I do my job correctly to a T. You've got people calling me for advice, so I'm analyzing your data or whatever the case may be, but yet the white guy that throws a fit because he didn't get the day off gets a promotion the next week. That's not okay. And like you were saying, I literally every day, even today, I get out of bed and I have like this weight on my shoulders of how am I going to act when I get out of the car? I shouldn't have to do that. I am a great person. And it took a long time for me to admit that I am a good person. I am a good person, and I get treated like shit because of the fact that I don't allow people to do or say whatever they want to me, or to other people. I shouldn't have to go to work and behave one way or speak one way and then go down to the coffee bar and speak a different way. Like, why can't I speak the way that I speak? Why is it so bad that, like Carlos was saying, why is it so bad that, you have to, your subconscious tells you to act a certain way around certain people? That's the problem, and not the problem, but that's a problem. And I just sit here in awe because I'm like, it's amazing to have other people to actually have a conversation with, and that's where it starts with conversation. Like, people don't understand that when when white people, and I think I have more white friends than black friends, and it's sad when you have to explain to them why something offended you, or when you have to explain to your boss why you feel like you've been treated unjustly, or if you have to explain to yourself why you can't say what you want to say in a certain situation or in a certain area, or when you have to, you want to walk with your head up, but you can't because the person next to you, is a white guy who, has less education but a better privilege and seen differently. There's just so much that you can talk about that I don't think a day or an hour or a year or anything can it's just so, I'm sorry, I'm lost for words just sitting here in awe, just being a part of this conversation, knowing that I'm right, and I'm going to leave here today,
That's right.
and I'm going to still be unapologetic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys for allowing me to sit here today, because I am that person that struggles with being myself. Too many times I tell people stop apologizing. People say sorry. I'm like, for what? That is my response. If anybody watching, if you know me, as soon as you say sorry and nothing happened, I go, for what? And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, what are you apologizing to me for? I don't apologize unless I did something wrong. I'm not going to apologize for being black. I'm not going to apologize for being trans. I'm not going to apologize for having 22 nieces and nephews that I love dearly, and if I want to spend every penny of my paycheck on them, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to apologize for not wanting to be in a relationship because I don't want to be a commitment. I don't want to apologize for buying my dog a new sweater. I'm not apologizing for any of that because I didn't do anything wrong. But what people need to apologize for is the insensitivity, is the injustice that we're seeking out, that we're seeing nowadays or every day. You know, and I think too many times my generation is just throwing it under the pillow. Oh, well, that was back then. They're not like that. Yes, they are. And I know my friends right now are probably like, what are you doing? What I'm doing is you don't understand. You don't understand what it's like having the abilities and the education and the love for just people that I do, and having to find 10 different jobs before I find a career because of how I look. Like, you know, and because I look young, automatically it's young lady or young man or little boy or you. Like, I was in Home Depot a few years ago buying pricing a fence for my house that I owned, and someone asked me if I was waiting for my mother, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm standing here with a American Express credit card ready to buy my product, but I walked out. I'm like, it's still happening today, and because Carlos and I, our generation is allowing it to happen. Now, you've been speaking up lately with protests and walking the streets with picket signs and all that. That's all great, but what are you doing at the podium? Are you voting? Are you getting these people out of office? Right? I'm just, you behave how you're raised, right? You can either become a product of your environment or you can change it. I decided to change it. I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, one of the worst cities in the world to me. And I decided not to be a product of my environment. Right? I wasn't recruited out of high school to go to college. I didn't have, my mom couldn't afford to send me to a good school. I'm in $70-something thousand in debt. But you know what? I wanted to be different, right? I wanted to not be the status quo. And we have to be different. We want different, we have to be different. You want to see change, you have to be the change. And that's just how it is. And it's like we can't be afraid of losing friends or losing our jobs or losing the respect from people who probably didn't deserve it to begin with. They didn't deserve it to begin with. Like, we need to start making change happen, and the way that's gonna happen is like what we're doing now. Having actual conversations within our community. It's not okay to be a black person and hate a black gay person. That's not okay. That's not okay, because at the end of the day, if you believe in God, he didn't say hate black people. He didn't say hate gay people, lesbians, trans, or whatever. He said love all people. So you can't say you love people and you're a Christian and you hate what we are about. Because I'm about what you're about. Providing my kids with a great house, a great home, a great education, which we don't get equally. I went to 3 different high schools just about. I went to an all-white high school. My sister, my brother, and I were one of the only 6 black people in an area high school. Now, for those of you that know what an area high school is, it's not just your zip code. It's literally the city surrounding you, bus everyone to one school because they don't have enough funding or whatever to make 5 different schools, so they don't have enough kids to have 5 different schools. We were the only black kids in that school, and there was no black history. Never had that class, ever. You didn't hear about it. I didn't celebrate Black History Month. They didn't do it. I got benched on a basketball team that I was clearly the best player on because those girls have been together their whole lives. My sister and I were, the first time on our bus, we were asked if we were supposed to be on that bus. I was like, it's the only way to school. School's 10 miles away, so what are we gonna do? It's not okay. And, now that I'm at an age where, I feel like the opinion of me, because everyone cared about opinion at some point, I no longer do. I'm having these conversations, and I'm like, hey, it's not okay that you said that. It's not okay that you excuse me. It's not okay that you want to name your son after your favorite black basketball player, like because he was black, and his dad was black. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That's not why you do things you do. You know, like it's just crazy that, you know, we were doing so much talking and everyone's doing so much protesting but I personally used to be optimistic, but I'm not anymore because I just think it's a show for most people. And I feel like, you know, when this is all done and the conversation is over and it has been had, what's gonna happen? Like you were saying, you know, we need to, like, how much education do people understand, like what it takes to make change? And I think that's the next conversation, like what it takes to make change.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm gonna talk your ears off one day and find out what the hell I need to do to get in office to help you make change. You know, like that's just, racial inequalities and insensitivities are real, people, and they're still happening to this day. I was wrongfully fired from my job in February, and I just got it back. Like it is crazy. It is crazy, and it's, you know, we need to stop being okay with people saying all lives matter. We need to stop being okay with, you know, empty apologies. And, you know, you have business owners, you're saying you support Black Lives Matter. Okay, support Black Lives Matter. Don't just say it. Don't just say it.
It's a good segue. We're actually, someone had a comment related to Jazz, something you said. This is Crystal Long, one of our former board members. I think she's in Florida now. And she says and I think she's referring to cisgender white Americans, can't necessarily relate to what we're feeling. Even Black straight women can't relate. And then Jay Sylvester says, I think to LaWanda's point, right, policy, not apology. And then Daryl Rhodes says, for those, we don't want to read that. So Tara Gibbs says, yes, LGBT plus history has been erased, El Monique, and ignored. Tanya Lucas says, great discussion. All right, and Chris Young says, to your point, at work, he often finds himself apologizing for being too abrasive at work, all right? So no apologies. I just want to read a few names here. Eric Gardner, Michael Brown. Actually, I can't read the names without bursting into tears. I try to do this at home.
Can we pay homage by passing that around for all of us to read the names? Because there is power in saying the names of everyone. Because their lives matter, and it is more than a hashtag, because we're still fighting for them.
Right.
So if we can do that to pay respect to their lives.
I would say read a couple of lines. It's so many, we
Right,
could
that's
go
the problem.
around
so
6 times.
If we went
It's
around
ridiculous.
and say read 3 other lines and then pass it, because unfortunately, today, we're still gonna be adding names to it, but we cannot forget.
I'll begin. Eric Gardner, John Crawford III, Michael Brown, Ezell Ford, Dante Parker, Michelle Cuso, Laquan McDonald, George Mann, Tanisha Anderson, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Rumain Gripson, Jermee Reed.
Matthew Ajibade, Frank Smart, Natasha McKenna, Tony Robinson, Anthony Hill, Maya Hall, Philip White, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, William Chapman II, Alexia Christian, Brendan Glenn, Victor Manuel LaRosa, Jonathan Sanders.
Freddie Blue, Joseph Mann, Salvador Ellswood, Sandra Bland, Albert Joseph Davis, Darius Stewart, Billy Ray Davis, Samuel DuBois, Michael Saby, Brian Keith Day, Christian Taylor, Troy Robinson, Ashams Pharaoh Manley, Felix Kumai or Kumi, Keith Harrison McLeod, Junior Prosper.
Hashem Pharaoh Manley, Felix Kuma, Keith Harrison McLeod, Junior Prosper, L. Mendez Jones, Patterson Brown, Dominique Hitchinson, Anthony Ashford.
Alonzo Smith, Tyree Crawford, India Kager, Levante Griggs, Michael Lee Marshall, Jamar Clark, Richard Perkins, Nathaniel Harris Pickett, Benny Lee Tignor, Miguel Espanol, Michael Noel, Kevin Matthews, Betty Jones.
Quintonio LeGrier, Keith Childress Jr., Janet Wilson, Randy Nelson, Antroni Scott, Wendell Celestine, David Joseph, Callan Rokilmore, Deshawn Perkins, Christopher Davis, Marco Loud, Peter Gaines, Tori Robinson, Darius Robinson, Kevin Hicks, Mary Trujillo, DeMarcus Samir, Willie Tillman.
Terrell Thomas, Sylville Smith, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Terrence Crutcher, Paul O'Neill, Arteria Woods, Jordan Edwards, Aaron Bailey,
Ronell Foster, Stephon Clark, Antoine Rose II, Botham Jean, Pamela Turner, Dominique Clayton, Atiana Jefferson, Christopher Whitfield, Christopher McCorby, Eric Reason, Michael Lorenzo Dean, Brianna Taylor, George Floyd.
And unfortunately, as of last night, we can add Rashard Brooks to that, who was gunned down in Atlanta with his back turned to the police. He was armed. He'd stolen the police's taser, but that is not considered a deadly weapon in Georgia. This is difficult, you know? Like, I have two sons. I can't imagine myself being in any of these black women or black men's place. These are a list of folk who have lost their lives in the last 5 years. Now, I want to share with you images of black women, black trans women, pardon me. She lost the images, I'm so sorry. So we saw that list. Those were about 70 names So just this year, statistically, 70 black trans women have been murdered. The year isn't over yet.
That's what we know
That's what we know.
of.
And that's just what we know, because most of them are often misgendered rather. So the police will report that if a trans woman was killed, that a black man was killed, or if a trans man was killed, that a woman was killed or murdered. And they don't say the circumstances. What are your feelings about the state of black trans folk in our community, particularly black trans women? Like, there's some work being done right now. The LGBT community conversation has a subcommittee called State of Emergency, Black Trans Women in Crisis. And we're doing some work right now to raise funds for black trans women, to empower them. We've applied for a few grants. Many of them use the services that we have here, our Poor No More services for emergency assistance funding and for clothes and for food. So we're able to take care of some of their immediate needs, but just from a sustainable place. Any of you have any solutions?
What you just said is what comes to my mind is that you are. So what are we doing?
Okay.
Half of the stories you talked about didn't even make the news.
Yeah.
It was just underground, secret social media chats that people or their friends posted
That's
that
right.
their trans partner or friend got killed by or whatever. But half of those stories don't even make the news.
Yeah.
So you saying what you said was that what your organization is doing, but what is America doing? What are we doing? I mean, it's just like this makes it, this doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So why are everybody treated the same, regardless of what sexual identity you go by or what race you are? It's still a bearing factor that equality is not going to be the same, regardless of what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's just my opinion.
Those of us who are cisgender, lesbian, and gay and bi folk, what things can we do practically to support, empower, and uplift, particularly trans women of color?
Honestly, for me, I have no more tolerance for it, and I think that's what it's going to take for everybody to come together and have zero tolerance. I can't feel right going out and chanting, certain people's names and not chanting these names of these transgender people who were killed. I can't feel right by posting the lives that were lost of what we know to be straight or cisgender people and not post about the trans lives that were just lost. The two that were just lost this week, Ryan Milton, I think was one of their names, and I forget the other name, but I posted something about them too, because I couldn't post about George Floyd and about everybody else, and I post about them. And I think what it's going to take for us to have the same zero tolerance policy that we have for when they kill a black person, as we do when it comes to transgender people, because we keep letting it slide. We keep letting it slide. So if I'm gonna loot and I'm gonna riot and I'm gonna protest and I'm gonna do this because you killed my black brother, I'm gonna loot and I'm gonna riot and I'm gonna protest for what you did for my black sister who was not born a woman, but she's a woman now, and we have to protect them. Or my brother who was born a female who is a man now. And I think what's going to take us to the next level is when we stop having tolerance for bullshit. If it's not making the media, most people don't even watch the news anymore anyway. Social media has now taken over the news. Social media has now taken over the radio. We don't have to listen to the radio, but when are we going to start bringing awareness to it just as much? Only reason some of the times that I know certain things are going on is because I follow transgender people who post it. I don't see my straight friends posting about that. And my question is, when are we going to wake up and realize that we're doing the same things to these people that white people are doing to us? And if we want change, it's going to have to start with resources, education, and all around just caring. Like, the the reason why a lot of the resources in the education is not being put out there is because they don't care. A lot of people do not care.
Yes.
And if you don't care about something, you're not going to educate people about something that you don't care about.
Yeah.
Most white people are not educating people on Black Lives Matter because they don't care about it. A racist is not going to educate you on how to get resources to vote and do this and that because they don't want you to do it. Same way as a cisgender person or a straight person who does not care about transgenders, they're not going to educate you about it because it's not important to them. And so we have to stand up. I hate that even the transgender community had to have a different flag
Right.
outside of the LGBTQ flag. It seemed like they had to make their own lane. And why, when we're all standing on the same ground, we're all fighting for the same thing. And I think what it's going to take is people to just start caring. And if you don't care about transgender people, then you cannot say that you care about Black Lives Matter. You can't